This is Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. We enthuse, we energize, we inspire, and we empower entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs of all stripes in BW and beyond. Greetings, salutations, and welcome to another episode of Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. I'm happy to welcome you every single week as I bring diverse entrepreneurs from all kinds of backgrounds with a view to enthusing and energizing you. But I can only work if you subscribe. It can only work if you hit that notification bell. Let me ask you to do that once again. And thank you for taking the time out. And my guest is Kwese. Am I saying it right?
Kwese, yeah. Close enough.
Yeah, Kwese
Dakwa.
Dakwa.
Yeah,
Kwese Dakwa is a digital strategist, but he'll introduce himself in greater detail. Just share a little bit of your background.
All right. So I have a background in software engineering, but currently work doing a lot of digital strategy. I'm also a bit of a content creator. I work in the advertising industry with agencies. I also consult. So that's about it in terms of my 9 to 5 and what keeps my heart pumping.
What's your academic background?
My academic background, software engineering and multimedia. I'm just in love with computers, more especially code. So that is the first true love of my life, and it's just kept me going in terms of exploring areas that are related to it.
So where did you do your training?
Where did I do my training? Actually here in Botswana. I have a BSc with honors, got from the University of Limpopo. And then since then, I've just been doing certifications, gotten involved with tech community groups such as the Google Developer Group. They have a chapter here. It's basically a community of developers that build solutions, that teach as well. Back early in the day, I did a number of hackathons, just building solutions on the fly before it was mainstream. Yeah.
When did digital strategy become a thing, become a profession? And how did you evolve into it?
In terms of when it became a thing, are you talking about when the industry
when it became recognized?
Wow, I think perhaps with that big boom in the 2000s, or I'd say with the emergence of the internet, people going online, there became a need for strategy or just deliberate ways of standing out in terms of the content you put out, in terms of how you are positioning yourselves, whether it's a brand or product or service that you want to sell, or even just a message that you want to communicate. Just a series of deliberate steps that you put forward. That's how I define strategy. Just having a plan that you can set in motion, check against, and also measure to see how effective it is. One
of the things you are known for is participating in the Afrochella and contributing to that. Tell those who might not know what that entailed.
Afrochella, it's formerly Afrochella, it's Afrofuture now. What happened is they had a very interesting threat of a lawsuit from Coachella due to the similarities in the names. So it had to rebrand to Afrofuture.
So when did they do that?
This happened last year. So they rebranded to Afrofuture. The whole theme is to be future facing for Africans. We're quite motivated by a quote by Kwame Nkrumah that the African man is capable of handling his own affairs. So that birthed the idea of a festival where we celebrate everything African. It's not just about the music, it's about the culture, the dance, how we speak, how we dress ourselves. So it's become one of the biggest cultural festivals on the continent that aims to bring people in the diaspora to Ghana. We're going to be rotating it across the continent, but for now to Ghana, just to celebrate being African. Yes.
Okay. What was your role with the Botswana Harvard AIDS initiative?
Shortly after I graduated from uni, I was still very enthusiastic about code. This is not to say I'm no longer enthusiastic, just a bit rusty, but very enthusiastic about code. And I met a gentleman who was working there at the time, and he gave me an opportunity to work there with the data management team. Basically, I was a data systems analyst working there. They do a number of clinical trials, and that means a lot of information that needs to be structured so that the research teams, when they're conducting their tests, it's very easy for them to take that data, structure it, and make decisions. So they called it the DMC, Data Management Center. Brings back so many memories because I had met quite a number of very interesting individuals that are, I think, will be lifelong friends for me. Yes.
What made you really spark your interest in getting involved in, in coding and data? What was the trigger, if you remember?
What was the trigger? I attribute it to my parents. I think my first real toys were computers. Those are the things I could tinker with unsupervised at any given time of day or night. Tinker with a broken computer, mess with the keyboard, and then notice that there's some innings that you could take out and put back together. And I was just fascinated as to how this thing connected to all these components worked. So it just got me wondering, okay, how is it put together? It's so cool that we can do so many of these things with it. It was, like I said, my first true toy, and I was fascinated with what makes it work. Yeah.
Wow. Talk to me about the power of digital storytelling. Perhaps define what it is and then tell us how you're involved in it.
I think it's two things. First of all, just storytelling. Storytelling, I think, is just having a narrative that sort of tries to explain a worldview or understanding of the world. And I think we're at an age where it's very important for us as Africans to own our narratives. For the longest time, well, in part due to colonialism, but now even due to globalization, we have other people telling our narratives, and it's almost as if we're shy to own them. So it's very important to tell our stories. I was having a conversation with someone 2 weeks ago, and he says, Gaborone is a boring place, there's nothing happening here. And I don't share that view. I just feel like there's a lot happening. We are not just deliberate about telling.
Could have been a boring person saying that.
It would have been a boring person saying that. We're not deliberate about telling the stories because there's no place on earth like Botswana. There's no place on earth like Gaborone. That alone sets it aside as some place unique. And so with that novelty comes different stories we can tell. And so when we go digital now, it just means using an electronic means to share these messages, whether it's putting it up on TikTok, Facebook, just so anyone else who's not familiar with the place can get some sort of appreciation of the people here, of the way of life here, and how things just function on this side of the world.
Now, of all these various platforms, which one resonates with you the most and why?
For now, it would have to be Instagram.
Why?
Did I say Instagram? Actually, TikTok. For me, they sort of work similarly, but it would have to be TikTok. TikTok for me takes first place because I think it's what Google search should have been. TikTok works better for me as a search engine than Google search. There's something called search engine optimization.
Yes.
It's basically how you categorize content.
SEO,
SEO. How you categorize content so that it's easy to find. A lot of creators or even just everyday people do such great search engine optimization on TikTok without even realizing, with the hashtags, with the keywords, and even when you're searching for something, perhaps even like best eateries, of which Black is one of them.
Thank you very much.
Best eateries in Gaborone. You're more likely to find a wealth of interactive information on TikTok than you are on any other platform. So I think for me, that's the treasure trove in as much as digital content goes in 2023.
Wow. And then followed by Insta.
Yeah, I think Insta as well, because it has a good mix of audio, visuals, and I spend quite a bit of time there as well. I'm slowly moving away from Facebook. I think it's called the Village app there because now...
Why are you moving from Facebook?
Facebook has gotten quite old. it's gotten quite old in the sense that, say for example, in comparison to maybe X, formerly Twitter, your Instagram and TikTok, I think the best things in the digital space happen outside of Facebook, and then Facebook is where they go to die, or it's their final resting place. It's like a copy and paste from everywhere else. Once you see it on Facebook, it's a copy and paste from somewhere else. Yeah.
Tell me about leveraging technology for social advocacy. How are you involved in social advocacy?
Social advocacy for me is a place that's very close to my heart. Back in the day, I was involved with, I call them a social advocacy group, but I realized that it's much more than that. It's more a youth leadership / empowerment platform. It's called the Global Shapers Gabrone. And I think during my time there, I didn't think I had leadership skills, but they did a very good job in instilling those in me.
What do they do?
So it's a thing of youth advocacy in terms of taking a stand to effect community change. Things like donations, identifying problems, and articulating problems. I think one of our biggest problems is properly articulating our problems so that we can find the right solutions. So it's bringing young people together to identify problems.
You said to me when we were prepping that it amplifies voices.
It amplifies the voice.
How does it amplify? Can you give specific examples?
Being able to reach more people. Soon we're going to be commemorating 16 days against gender-based violence. We could have a march in the city, right? But I think if we're able to package educational content, if we're able to package stories of how bad the situation is, we're able to amplify the voice that says this is wrong and we need to reach more people to first educate them and then of course instill some sort of behavior change so that this comes to an end. And social media is a great tool for this.
Okay, do you think we should go to the point of naming and shaming the culprits?
I think we should. This is a biblical reference. It's just that I don't recall where exactly, but apparently to name something is to know it. So if we're always referencing people who sort of like do social ills anonymously, then what's the point? I think we need to be able to put voices and faces behind who these people are, so we can out them and, rehabilitate them if necessary. But if we're always referencing them anonymously, it's almost as if some mystic figure is the one committing all these social ills, and that would take us longer to solve the problem. There are culprits. It's like, say for example, there's a break-in at a house. They know that there has to be a suspect. I'm sure the investigative thought process is to find the suspect, to name and shame the suspect, not to sort of speak of them anonymously. So we need to treat social ills.
That you are not, you're innocent until proven guilty.
Yes.
And maybe you are just caught up in something.
But once the evidence is stacked up and you are proven guilty, you're not treated anonymously, right? There's a face to it.
Yeah.
So we need to have that same approach to social ills.
Okay. Yeah. Data-driven insights. This one I like the term because, data-driven insights and decision making. I like the concept. How do you actually apply it?
I'll give you an example with social media again. So with social media, especially with I'd say running campaigns or running ads. I'm sure as you scroll through, you see a lot of ads. It can be quite annoying, but a lot of times people don't really know or appreciate that those ads are targeted to you because of your activity. Your activity has been monitored, and so it's deliberately shown to you, not necessarily by AI, by the platform itself.
Using AI?
Now, of course, using AI, but traditionally it could just be reducing your activity into ones and zeros. Like maybe you viewed a page about sports 15 times in a week. That sort of translates to you being interested in sports, and so it would make sense to show you sports related ads. So making these data driven insights sort of cuts out the guesswork. It cuts out the guesswork, and you're able to target people who would appreciate what it is you have to say, what it is you have to sell, so on and so forth.
Can you give examples of how you and your company have used it in the African context?
In the African context, well, outside work in an agency here, I'll give an example with, say for example, what we've done with Afrofuture. Working closely with airlines to see sort of the target audience for people traveling to West Africa in December, and then trying to show them ads related to the festival, as this is something they most likely would be interested in. And like I said, it's not guesswork because there's data on the sort of online activity from these people. So when we target them, they're more likely to be interested versus someone who we're just doing a cold call towards, like is traditionally done in sales. Yeah.
I suppose the interesting thing that a viewer would ask about is your T-shirt with the words "wow" there,
with the word "wow," which means culture. Yeah.
How did that evolve? What's that about?
I love culture so much. I think it's a symbol of how beautiful we are as a people. So the background behind this is I had it printed for a shoot. I needed this text on a T-shirt, and it had to glow in the dark. So I got it printed and did the shoot. And ever since then, I've just kept the T-shirt because I realized that I really love culture because it's a way of unifying people, but also reminding people what makes them beautiful, what makes them unique. And it always makes for interesting conversation. People do things differently in Botswana than they do in Ghana, or they do in South Africa, or they do in any other part of the world. So it makes for such great conversation. In as much as you could have someone with blue eyes and black eyes and hazel eyes, culture just beautifies our identity as human beings.
Is there anything noticeable that you can think of between the culture of the difference between Ghana and Botswana?
The culturally.
Is there anything that springs to mind?
I would say the first thing is, wow. This is a bit of a difficult one because both are sort of like symbols of home for me. But I say in Botswana, I think I'm calmer. I'm able to think better. I'm able to think better versus when I go home and it's just so fast paced. There's 10 things happening at the same time. And I love it because that's the energy of the space. And something I'm seeing in terms of like the youth culture, right? Because culture is ever evolving, the youth culture. So many young people, especially here, are becoming such go-getters. Like I love the drive to do things that...
More than in Ghana?
I wouldn't say more than in Ghana, but I would say here, per capita, it's higher. Per capita, it's higher.
That's a good thing.
That's a great thing. That's a great thing because it means the future is in safe hands. Yeah, more people are ambitious.
Can you illustrate that with examples? Because I don't interact with the people that you do, so maybe you can share what you mean by that.
I'll give an example of just my circle of friends. The things they're doing in terms of saving up to invest. A good friend of mine, you've actually had him on your podcast before. His name is Malik.
I've heard him, yeah.
Yeah, so things like that where you have them leading initiatives, you have them pushing businesses, even if it's small businesses, it's still something. And you see that drive and you're like, wow. It's just beautiful to see.
Let's talk about the building culturally relevant content. I want you to give me instances where you actually did that and the impact it had.
I think cultural relevance, it's very important to notice that as we globalize, there's a lot of copying and pasting going on. I think that also contributes to losing our identities. There's this quote by Nelson Mandela that if you want to speak to a man and have them understand you, it's best to do so in their language. So a great thing would be just taking Setswana values, right, and selling them as an attraction to the country. I'll give you an example with Japanese values like feng shui, ikigai. I tend to reference them quite often, and then At the back of my mind, I'm like, but we have similar concepts in Africa. It's just Boto is one of them. It's just that maybe we don't package them or glamorize them to that level, but then they're in everyday life, everyday society, and they are values that the world actually needs more of. Yeah.
For instance, the Kotla system.
The Kotla system. I understand that was adapted by a researcher in the US. In terms of,
I was told a German guy has tried to patent it or something, but it's still something that we use.
You know what I mean? So like I'm saying, the world needs more of the values that we have here. It's just for us to realize that the cultural values are diamonds too.
So do you actually create the content yourself for your clients? That's what I was pushing for.
Oh yeah.
See what content you've created for clients in that area.
In the spaces where I consult, I do create content being the form of visuals, photography, video. I've had the opportunity of being a part of an internship program, a user insights research program by Spotify as well, where we're just trying to understand why people love music and how to make musical experiences all the more significant wherever you are in the world. Yeah.
Okay. Not necessarily African music, the music in general.
Music in general.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what are your findings there?
Our findings is, like, you know how they say music is a universal language? Not many people realize how impactful that statement is. Music, in a sense, sort of like brings us together more than we realize. Like, imagine a world where, like, say for example, what kind of music do you enjoy listening to?
I like house and jazz.
House and jazz, lovely. Imagine a world without house and jazz. People use music to relax, use people when they're trying to focus, use music when they're enjoying themselves. It's in so many different social settings. It's like this one invisible glue or this one invisible amplifier that makes our experiences all the more enjoyable.
It's a universal language.
Yeah.
Multimedia tools for engaging education. What are those tools?
Multimedia tools would just basically be like just revisiting the philosophy of how we teach. And realizing that learning happens beyond even the classroom. It happens with conversations, with children spending more time on social media. That means that content on social media has to be more educational. So it just means...
As opposed to? Education. More edutainment than...
edutainment more than educational. Because... I think learning...
That means the teachers should spend more time making it interesting.
Exactly.
And entertaining.
Learning is more impactful when you find it fun. It shouldn't be viewed as something you're doing to check a box or a chore. Yeah.
And what are you doing there in terms of your area?
In terms of my area, like I said, it's the involvement with the Google Developer Group. Earlier this year, we did a series of masterclasses with UNICEF as well.
Wow.
Just to impart employability skills and entrepreneurship skills.
This is online.
It was a bit of a hybrid event. We streamed it online, but we also had a physical attendance. So it's just the aim of imparting these skills and then seeing how far.
So where was it and what sort of activities were involved?
Oh, this happened in Gaborone, just in Main Mall. I forget the specific name of the space, but there were people teaching on finance, branding. I was doing digital marketing. So it's just a mix of these skills that young people could use to apply whether they want to be employees, entrepreneurs, or both. Yeah.
What about the big money in all of this?
The big money.
Youngsters are probably asking themselves, where is the big money? Is there any way we can make it in this field?
I think right now the way the world is looking, it's towards content. There's this quote, "Content is king." It's it's attributed to Bill Gates. He saw this in the late 90s. It's 2023 and the statement still holds true. Content is king. Packaging everyday things into nuggets which are interesting and can draw in audiences, can draw in crowds. I think that is a very understated skill. There was this quote, well, I call it a quote because I saw it off of somewhere. It was by a local media personality. His name is Ndu. He done a school visit to his previous school, I think it was Baobab, and he was talking about how parents need to realize that with content creation, kids are learning skills that previously took years to learn. Scoring content, shooting content, SEO optimization without even realizing it. So the way they're communicating now is just really setting up the bar. There's a higher demand for skills like this, and as they continue to grow, and in doing this, there'll be a higher demand and obviously more opportunities to make money off of it.
That's very interesting. And what is your take on AI, and how have you incorporated it into what you're doing?
In terms of incorporation, I use AI every day of my life now. It's and with this, I'm referencing tools like Chat GPT, DALL-E, and even Adobe. In one of their tools, Photoshop, they have a generative AI tool. And in terms of how it's bolstered my creativity, I think it's given me more creative freedom, and it's given me more time. Because creativity is quite time consuming, so it's giving me more time to be creative by lessening the effort I have to put in order to sort of package and give the world an end product. So I think it's given us in general more creative freedom. We just need to be careful that we're using it for good, because there's a lot of ethical debates about it. A lot of people are worried that AI is going to take their jobs. No, someone using AI is going to take your job, not AI itself. We're not there yet. But I'd encourage every single person, just get familiar with AI. It's artificial intelligence. It's not necessarily smarter than you are. It's just spewing out. It's just faster than you are.
How does DALL-E, for instance, work?
DALL-E is used to generate images from text.
How does that happen?
So most of these AIs are fed models. Models are data sets. Say, for example, it could have been fed a model about a podcast setup. And so you generate an image of a podcast setup, and you're specific. I think the specificity in it, they call it prompt engineering. Those are the commands that you give it. Back in the day, like say, for example, coding. Coding is a set of commands in the software's language, but now it's been reduced to everyday language in English. So you tell it, generate a sunflower, generate this for me. You tell DALL-E.
After paying it?
There's a free version. Yeah, there's a free version.
There's a free version.
Yeah.
Okay, you just type DALL-E and then it comes.
Yeah, DALL-E is actually part of the same suite of products as Chat GPT. Yeah. So they have their separate website, but you can visit that and use it to create content.
Pretty new. How long have you been using that?
It's funny you're asking that, because this morning I realized that effectively today is Chat GPT's first birthday.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
So I started using it last year, December. So
wow.
I'm going on a year now.
You're one of the early adopters.
I'd like to think. Yeah.
And you mentioned another one. Which one is that?
Photoshop's generative AI. So Photoshop is part of the Adobe suite. That's like a Swiss Army knife of creativity tools used for editing pictures. So it works just like DALL-E in the sense that it's able to generate images from text. But then this is built into a software. Yeah.
Okay, so there are all kinds of AIs which can be used for negative or positive. Where, for instance, you remove your wrinkles if you are old, or you add them when you are young to get a specific effect. Has it gotten to a point where scammers are now taking advantage of AI? Of course. Things like fake deeps. If you're familiar with the concept, where I could just take a picture of you and then use AI to animate it
and sort of have evidence that you did or said something that you would never even imagine doing. I could get
and
15,
looks realistic.
Yeah, 15 seconds of your voice and then manipulate it to say something that you would never say
Even
or
think
do
about.
or even think about. So it's at a level where we need to be cautious. We need to be cautious because as digital tools are advancing, ways of getting scammed online are advancing just as fast. So we need to be quite vigilant.
So what are the common scams now that we should watch out for?
Identity theft has to be the most common.
I've fallen victim to that one
Identity
repeatedly.
theft has to be the most common.
Have you fallen victim?
I can't say I have, but I've had to help people, and it goes beyond people getting their pages hacked. Like I said, next, there's a picture of you somewhere, perhaps doing something compromising, and you've never done it, but it looks so realistic. And then it's like, this is the fake evidence versus your word of mouth. And, we have to stand on the authority of who would be more believable. So it's at a level where we need to be very careful with these things, because AI is really becoming more and more realistic in terms of the things that it can produce.
You have something to say about drones as well.
Oh yeah.
In the sense of innovative uses of drones.
Innovative uses of drones. I think drones are
beyond entertainment.
Beyond entertainment. My first introduction to drones were basically just as cameras which can fly. Cameras which can fly. I use them a lot to create content, but then I realized that it's a great tool to just change our perspective of the world. At first, you'd only appreciate an aerial view if you are in a helicopter or an aeroplane. But now with something that could probably fit into your bag, you could put it up in the sky and just get a view of how the CBD is developing, for example. Drones are being used to sort of track climate change, to sort of improve, even locally, there's startups that are working towards having information. They're linking the use of drones and AI to help farmers sort of combat the effects of climate change, pests and diseases, and also just improve their overall yield.
And
so
you
quite
yourself,
a bit is being done.
What specific projects have you done using drones?
I've been involved mostly on the multimedia side, telling stories about the impact of climate change. So shooting content which just sort of shows how things are changing over time. And of course using it for entertainment, like with Afrofuture, capturing the numbers that we're coming in as a way of telling the story of what we're trying to achieve, which is celebrating African culture through that festival.
Okay, so you do have drones yourself, or how does it work?
Yeah, I do own the equipment. I have a drone myself. I'm constantly flying it. It's one of my favorite pastimes. Yeah.
So it's able to take pictures of different angles of objects.
Yeah, different pictures of aerial views. I've got countless pictures of the CBD. It used to be one of my favorite areas to sort of photograph or get pictures of, because there's quite a bit of construction going on here. So my idea was getting all this content, so over the years then I could look back and be like, oh wow, before, like say for example this site here, once the building does go up, this is what it looked like before.
Yes.
Yeah.
And on climate change, I'm not sure exactly how the drones help and how you actually demonstrate if it's degradation or improvement of climate change, how that works. Can you perhaps illustrate it with specifics?
You said it. It could show whether relief efforts are working. It could show how bad the degradation is. Like say for example, if I put up a drone in a specific spot, I could program it that from a specific spot, say even if I had the time, every day for the next 6 months, I take a picture. So in areas that are affected by deforestation, for example, if you were able to put that sort of setup there, you can then see the real level of impact or degradation from an aerial view.
Okay. And are governments beginning to adopt this drones, or it's mostly private sector initiatives?
I think the private sector is moving faster, but there are a bunch of initiatives. There's this local startups in Botswana such as Drones for Africa. Another startup of which I'm quite close with the founders.
Yeah, they're somewhere in the building. They're our tenants.
Oh wow, lovely! You see,
Yeah,
you're involved.
yeah,
You're involved.
yeah.
There's another startup called Anton Tech.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones using drones and AI to sort of help farmers make data-driven decisions and improve their yield.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Now, people always talk about the negative side. Is there any danger there with drones?
I wouldn't say there's any real danger. You just need to know how to maneuver it.
Because I'm told people could use it for assassinations and whatnot.
No, these drones
flying, suddenly you're on the ground.
These drones aren't like the ones that are used in warfare. These drones do not pollute.
But they can be.
I don't think we're at that level yet, because they're commercial drones. The more specific use is due to the sensors that are built in, and also the cameras as well. Unless if there's a mishap where maybe a drone falls out of the sky and injures someone in the process. But
the batteries run out.
Or the batteries run out. But that would just be testament to an irresponsible drone pilot. Why would you let it get to that point? So yeah.
Okay. Now, what's your definition of intuitive digital experiences? Because those you create as well. What makes them intuitive?
The intuitivity of it has to do with how much it means to the people. So collecting data in terms of like even just doing surveys to find out what matters to the people at the moment. It also borders of the word experiential. One thing I'm seeing a lot of is the use of virtual reality. Like now, say for example, if you've never been to the Delta, you could put on some VR goggles and it would take you there, or you'd get a firm appreciation of what it looks like there, and it would also plant a seed for you to physically want to go there and appreciate the area for yourself.
Okay.
Yeah.
No entrepreneur succeeds without setbacks and challenges. What would you say are the biggest challenges and setbacks for you?
Oh, wow. The biggest one, I think about it every day, how to scale up, how to grow the brand, and also I like to merge it with impact. So in as much as it's important to make money, I think the longer lasting legacy is solving people's problems, making a difference, so that touch, that invisible touch outlives anything else you could do for them. Yeah.
So setbacks?
So the biggest setbacks would be, I think, having the industry sort of grow as fast as your ambition. I think we're still in our infancy, in as much as the creative industry here has been around for a while. We're still in our infancy in terms of how we're moving, how we're packaging our content, how creators are paid.
But have you reversed? Have you suffered a setback?
I have. Well, last year I lost pretty much all my equipment.
What happened?
My apartment got broken into and I lost everything.
Right here in Gabs.
And I was due to leave for Ghana, I think, in about 3 weeks. I had to cancel that trip because then I didn't have my passport. I lost my passport as well. I lost all my equipment. And
what had happened?
It was a break-in in my apartment. Yeah. And everything got cleaned out. And at that point, I was at a level where I thought I was good because of the tools I had. So starting again with nothing, I had a bit of a mindset shift, and I realized that what I really need to prioritize as my greatest tool was the mind. Sharpening the skills, sharpening how I think about creating. And then the tools are just like something auxiliary that I could have and lose over time, but then this
you now have to
be the greatest tool.
Your iPhone or something.
For the most part, I used my phone. I had a very old camera which I was using. That wasn't so easy to maneuver. And like I was saying, it just taught me about sharpening how I think about executing any level of creativity I'm involved in.
So what would your advice be to the viewers in terms of developing that attitude of grit to survive through setbacks?
I think a setback is always something you need to push through. There's this very interesting reel I came across last month. I watch it almost every day because it's something that keeps me going. It's about having a goal. So the man breaks it down and says, treat life like you have a guaranteed check. if you offered me a guaranteed check of 1 million pula and said I needed to travel to, say for example, Australia in 48 hours in order to cash the money, otherwise I wouldn't have it. I would borrow money, I would leverage, because I know that it's guaranteed. I'll do everything in my power to ensure that I get to that point. So that's exactly how you need to think about your goals. They need to be clear and specific, and then do everything you must
to get to them.
To get to that point. And also have big goals that scare you. And the reason why you need to do that is because if you have a goal which you think you can achieve, you're only operating at a level
big, hairy, audacious goals.
So if you think you can achieve a goal, it's not big enough. It means you're operating from a level of comfort. It's something you could do in your sleep. It has to be something that keeps you up at night, that pushes you beyond where you currently are.
That's very good advice.
Yeah.
And then human-centric approach in technology, as if there's non-human-centric approach.
Well, okay, let me pose a philosophical question for you. Do you think we build cars for roads, or we build roads for cars?
I haven't thought about that. Let me think about it. Is it a trick question?
No, it's not a trick question. I genuinely want to...
I think both.
You think both? I genuinely think we should be building roads for cars. Because one is the mode of transport and the other is the medium of transport. So say, for example, if we have too many cars and not enough roads, then we have a problem there. So the technology has to be able to speak to the people. The technology has to be able to connect with the people. The technology has to be able to solve the people's problems. So when developing any sort of technology...
Well, I've heard Steve Jobs say that the problem with that is that the public doesn't know what it wants, so you have to teach it what it needs.
That might be true, but in one way or the other, the public could be quite effective at expressing what its problems are. Like if you're currently hearing people exclaiming, "Ish, it's too hot." That problem is an opportunity. That problem is an opportunity. Ish, it's too bright. That problem is an opportunity. You just need to see it that way and develop a solution that solves it adequately.
Is there any particular one that you've come up with, human-centric approach in technology development?
So
that your company is involved in?
It's just basically festival experiences at the moment. Festival experiences. I've taken a bit of a step back from tech because I want to understand people. I want to understand people outside of tech. I want to understand people when they're having fun, because I think that is when you're at your highest level of operation. When you're having a good time, you're not worried about anything else the world has thrown at you. That's just a special moment in time for any single person.
And some people use tech to enhance that.
Exactly.
And sometimes it's difficult to separate tech, because I know people who fall apart if their phone is not charged. And if they can, who fall apart if they cannot charge it somewhere. You have seen such people.
I have.
Freak out.
I have quite a number of people I know that are into trading forex, and they do it from their phones. So if they don't have access to internet, or they don't have access to their phone, and they need to do a trade, they just totally lose their minds.
Yeah. Speaking of forex, there are those who believe it's a scam along with crypto. What's your view?
I tend to think in this day and age, anything can be a scam, but that doesn't mean everything is a scam.
Yeah.
There are people generally out there who are making money from this, and then there are other people who use it to scam people who don't know much about it. So my advice would be to just educate yourself on how each of these works, and also if it sounds too good to be true, don't commit to it. Don't put your money into anything that promises to quadruple it overnight. That sounds like a scam. So don't fall victim.
Yeah. Now, do you advise companies on how to market? In other words, do you get into a company and say, let's scrap what you're doing, let's start a digital marketing strategy from scratch? And if that is the case, give us one or two examples without mentioning names.
So how I've basically operated is in the past, I'd be a part of a team where a client would come by and say, we have this new product we want people to know about, or we have this problem that we want to raise awareness about. And this is our target audience. Run with it and make it a success. And then the next step would be to sort of understand how the people communicate, what kind of content resonates with them the most, and then develop campaigns where we connect all these different content pieces, all these different ways of communicating, whether it's to sell banking services, whether it's to communicate about incoming developments in the country, whether it's to just raise a level of awareness. I think that's how we've operated in the past. It's very interesting because then we are merging. We wouldn't say. I think working in marketing and advertising, you sort of become a bit of an expert at everything because you have to understand the client, and then you help the client understand who their clients are, and then you develop solutions for both of them. Yeah.
So you might mean developing a client profile.
Yes.
And then
audience personas. Who are your people? What segmentations exist between your target audiences and so on and so forth, and then speaking to them in a way that makes sense. Yeah.
So is there a particular client, without necessarily singling them out, that you can talk of with it? Here I went and I made this change, and these are the results.
Well, I never work in one-man teams. So I'd say in the teams that I've been a part of, I don't know if the audiences can see, but it's these guys over here right next to us.
Yeah.
In terms of selling a few banking services and just making sure that people were excited about the banking services that they had.
So that entails doing what?
That entails storytelling. Like say, for example, something maybe as it would be mundane, opening a bank account, right? And then the technicalities in terms of these are the benefits. You see that on paper and you really have to think about that. But then employing your imagination to have that sound fun, speak to your aspirations as a person, and then be like, okay, I feel like this bank account could really change my life. So turning it from boring, plain old black and white text into something that is a visual you can resonate with.
So you would have a series of campaigns which are on social media?
On social media, yeah.
Okay. And then monitor how people respond.
Exactly, monitor how people respond. And I think the beauty of digital marketing is you can monitor in real time and make decisions as to whether or not something is working and then tweak on the fly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is something you do on a daily.
Yes, please.
And where do you think people are getting it wrong? Most companies are getting it wrong in terms of digital marketing.
I think the first would be treating digital marketing as an afterthought. I think something that you can measure should be like one of the greatest tools in your arsenal, because if you can then with confidence say 1,000 people watched the 10 Nuggets of Wisdom podcast, then you know for a fact that these are people that want to hear from you versus taking a shot in the dark, you know. So being able to rest with that assuredness that these are the numbers don't lie. These are the numbers you can constantly reference. You can make better decisions in future. You can optimize in terms of how you're going to scale up, where you're going to put money, versus just making decisions and crossing your fingers and hoping it works out for the best.
Now I've heard people say you should not be guided by followers and likes and subscribers making your decisions, because that can be misleading. How true is that? And if that is not sufficient, how do you go beyond that?
So within audiences exist something we call niche audiences. The truth of the matter is you can't speak to everyone at once. Even in real life, when you're at a seminar, you find there are people who are there for different reasons. There are people who want to be there maybe because they deeply resonate. Other people, it's a pastime. For those who deeply resonate, you find it's a small percentage still. So just focus on speaking to them. right? That could be your niche audience, and it would be easy to convert, because you could have a situation where you have 1 million followers on social media, but the time you do host a physical event, only 10 people show up.
Yeah.
Versus having 100 followers on social media and you host an event and 100 people show up.
Yeah.
So it's a thing about just building brand advocacy and loyalty to the extent that the people who follow you on social media would actually even translate to real life clients, buyers, or real life audience.
Yeah.
One thing I like to think about it is there's a lot of talk about algorithms and how they work. In order for you to fully understand what is going on social media, just replace the word algorithm with audience. That's basically how it works. The audience wants to see more of this. The audience wants to see more of that.
Yeah. And then excuse me, monetizing and converting it to cash.
Yeah.
What skill set does that take, and how do you do it?
It takes the ability to create content. That's the key, or let me say that is the core of digital marketing at the moment. Being able to create content that excites, that informs, that inspires, that is educational in a fun and interactive way, versus something that is mundane. So I think that is a key skill. And in order to create the content, you really need to understand who your people are and effectively what could grasp their attention.
Because I've heard people complain that YouTube doesn't even recognize Botswana, and quite a few platforms are not recognized for monetization purposes.
Yeah.
Isn't that a serious problem?
That is a serious problem, because it means we're getting left behind. We're getting left behind. You'd find a person with 1 million followers in Botswana isn't really incentivized as much as someone with 1 million followers in SA, and it's something we need to fix. I don't quite understand the back end in so much as the policies that are preventing it from happening. But
if an expert doesn't understand, how can poor mere mortals like us understand?
But I do understand there's a lot of lobbying. There's a lot of lobbying happening so that in the near future it happens.
Lobbying from where?
Lobbying in terms of
OP or from Ministry of Entrepreneurship or what?
Yeah, Ministry of Entrepreneurship, the National Arts Council as well, is having conversations about how to just right that wrong, so that there's more of an incentive for creators to
there are
earn.
communities which are smaller than us which are recognized in terms of population size.
Exactly.
So it's not about population.
It's no longer about population.
So what is the real issue?
I do not know what the real issue is. It's quite mind-boggling. Yeah, I could only, like, my guess would be as good as yours. One thing I can say though is that it's about time. It's about time we were as recognized, because we have the creators. William KRM won Best Digital Content Creator against some heavyweights where in countries there's YouTube monetization.
He's managed to break through because he's registered himself in South Africa, correct?
True, he has, but it's just a testament to how the homegrown talent can compete on a world stage.
Yeah, he's actually in his own stratosphere, isn't it?
Wow.
No one comes close, except maybe Vima and Pizzi, but even him is a way back.
Yeah, but I think, look, there's more from the source. There's more from where that came from. And I think by allowing for monetization, we can have more stars rise to that level. Yeah.
Let's talk about balancing, authenticity with creativity.
Okay.
In terms of how do you achieve that balance? We all recognize that it's important to be authentic. I want you to speak to that.
Sometimes you'd be in a situation where you realize that your creativity is limited by, how the customers are always right. Maybe you're creating for someone, so they dictate how you should be creative versus your better judgment. One of the reasons why I create a lot, like on the side for myself, is I need to fuel the authentic part of my creativity versus something I know will sell.
When you say a lot, you mean you post a lot?
Yeah, quite a bit.
How many pieces of content per day?
Not necessarily per day, but maybe I could just randomly go out once a week, post something, and then schedule when to put that up, just to feed my sense of creativity, just to challenge what I view through my lens as
Mostly
being
blogs
creativity. I've done a few blogs, but it's mostly visual stuff, photography and videos. Yeah,
but focusing on unique stuff.
focusing on what I consider unique. Yes.
So,
yeah.
aspiring content creators, can't you tell them about how to balance these two, creativity versus authenticity?
I think your true sense of creativity will always be authentic. It's your flavor, and it would be very difficult to replicate. The one thing would
So you
be
should
to learn
ignore
the
that
basics.
unreasonable client. who wants
Not necessarily to ignore the unreasonable client. Try your level best to educate them. Sure, do the project if you need to pay bills, right? Do the project, pay your bills, but for yourself as well, continue to create what feels authentic for you as well.
Yeah.
Your level of creativity should not always be dictated by someone else.
Yeah.
Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to would-be content creators out there who may be watching you.
Yeah.
If they really want to upscale or to improve at the highest level, to be the best they can be, what do you recommend in terms of either books or websites or even podcasts that they could go for?
The first one is this one, Nuggets of Wisdom, because there's a wealth of information here that not a lot of people realize could take them far, right? So learn, and then after learning, keep applying. There has to be a tremendous level of consistency in applying what you learn. As you keep doing that, your skill will refine, and you'll be able to attract higher paying clients. You'll be able to improve the quality of your work. You'll be able to get better gear. Just start with what you have. Even if it's a phone, start with what you have, because the truth of the matter is you will never feel like you have enough gear. So start with what you have. Don't stop learning, and also try to shorten the time in between what you learn and practicing what you learn. Yeah.
Because it might become obsolete.
It might become obsolete. The way the world is moving, it most
my
definitely will.
question is what are the places to go for this learning?
Yeah.
Is there any particular ones you recommend?
YouTube is the biggest one for me. There are a lot of creators that are giving out gems for free. So you could literally just search how to edit a different style. You'll find something. There are a lot of renowned creators there. You could literally search how to edit like this creator. You'll find someone has done a video
and
on
they
it.
Open up 100%.
They open up. I like how there is little to no gatekeeping. People are so willing to share. We're at a space in time where it's so easy to learn, but then in order to master, it's on you to keep practicing.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Now, what is the prognosis or the long-term view about your brand and your company? What can we expect in 10 or 20 years? 10 or 20 years.
I would like to build a community of learners who basically are able to teach. Community of learners who are able to teach. That is where I see myself going, in the sense of we're able to teach and create an impact through teaching in any industry.
So teaching how?
Teaching what we've learned. Teaching absolutely any and everything.
Okay.
I think learning is a lifelong thing. So whether in your 30s you decide to become a lawyer, and then you infuse that with a creative way of teaching the principles of law, or you decide to sort of delve into medicine.
So in your case, what will we have in 20 years' time?
In 20 years' time,
will it be an academy, or will it be just a system
I
of
think
mentorship?
20 years is a long time.
Yeah.
It's a long time. Maybe in 5. I think 5. A virtual sort of mentorship. And I'm speaking this into existence, so I'm going to watch this back to hold myself accountable.
Yeah.
A virtual academy that is so delved in mentorship, where we mentor each other, we grow. And more than anything, I want it to be free, because access is a huge barrier for a lot of people who could do great things. So I want it to be free.
People take things lightly when they're free. They are dismissive of the quality.
Some people do, but other people need that sort of platform. So it's just to make it free, and then we'll make an impact in the lives of the people who really need it. That's what I feel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have a question for me as we wrap up our conversation?
Yes, I do. In fact, 2 questions. I've read up so much on your story, where you began versus where you are now. And I would like you to share the key thing that's kept you going. Like if you could phrase it as advice for your younger self, like when you first started down and you had your first setback, the key thing that kept you going.
Yeah. I mean, I've actually written a book about this, which you bought. Yeah. Which is the ideal of grit. And what I would like to suggest is that maybe read the book and then underline a few points and let's have a meeting. Okay. But the point of the book is that grit is what makes the difference.
Grit is what makes the difference.
Persistence, resilience. Okay. Perseverance, persistence, resilience, which is otherwise known as grit. That's all I can say.
100%. 100%.
In the book, I break it down.
Great. I'll have a good time reading it. Yeah. I hope you autograph it for me.
I'm going to do that, definitely.
Thank you, yeah.
What's the second?
And then the second one would be, what area of tech are you most interested in right now? Say for your businesses, what area of tech?
I would just say social media in general, because we have an accounting system and we want to find a way of integrating. For instance, we have a debt collection division with the accounts. We haven't quite integrated things the way we want, and it's a work in progress. So we're really looking for a software expert, or somebody you could call a digital expert, maybe somebody like you, I don't know, to come and see our systems and then make them seamlessly integrated.
Just integrate.
Yeah, that's number one. Number two, we just carry on with what you are doing. For instance, we post 3 or 4 pieces of content every single day. Wow. So we want to maintain that and even increase it maybe to 7. Wow. But we have these guys, my editor, my
shout out to the team.
They create content non-stop, and it's that content that we're sharing. Lovely. In addition to some of it that I'm doing in my amateurish way. So that is what. So we are on all the platforms: TikTok, Instagram, what used to be called X. I'm not active in X, but then we go to Facebook, you'll find us, and then also LinkedIn. Those are the main ones. Lovely. We've joined a new one called. There's a new one called. You should know. Thread.
Oh, Threads.
Yeah, but there's
not part of Instagram.
Yeah, but there's not much happening there.
There's not much happening.
I don't know why.
I think there was just a huge excitement when it was announced. A lot of people feel like Twitter is toxic, so to speak. So they thought with Threads it'll be more easy. But the level of engagement at Threads is quite low. There aren't a lot of people there.
I don't know why that is so. Okay. But having said that, that's where we are active, sir.
All right.
That camera is for you to give one final message. Yeah. As we part with our viewers. Something uplifting or encouraging.
All right. I'll share this from something that I think keeps me going. It's the simple phrase that thoughts become things. What that basically means is, if you think you can achieve something, you're absolutely right. But if you think you can't achieve it as well, you are just as equally right. So just keep fueling yourself to believe in what you're doing. We only managed to connect the dots looking back. So, yeah, wherever you are, just do your level best and it will work out. So thoughts become things. Make sure you're being fueled by the best level of positivity to keep
the right things.
Yeah.
All right. What about your contacts?
My contacts, social media. It's a bit of a mouthful. Can we get them to show somewhere?
Yeah, I think the guys will show.
All right, cool.
Yeah, but what are they? That was a mouthful.
All right, it's my name on pretty much all the platforms, Kwese AD, except for Instagram. Achim's very own. That's the name of my dad's clan, so I decided to put it there as a symbol of me just being proud of being
what?
Achim's very own. AKYEM _very _own. That's on Instagram.
Okay. Do you have any contacts via WhatsApp?
WhatsApp. Okay, I could give out my number. It works on WhatsApp even when I'm in Ghana. That would be 76614409. Don't forget the 267 at the beginning if you're not watching from Botswana. But I'm also available on LinkedIn, Kwese Dakwa, that will show. And my email address will show as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
You did a great job. Great
Thank you so much.
I enjoyed it.
I appreciate you having me on here.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much.